The Rise and Shine podcast series is made possible by the generous support of Bonnie Vozar of Chicago, Illinois.
If one places oneself in a positive environment with positive influences, the old patterns are more likely to fall away, creating space for new positive patterns and habits.
This is Rise and Shine, a podcast that offers timeless wisdom and uplifting meditations to fill your heart, feed your soul, and start your day on a positive note. Here is Adrienne Gold Davis.
My favorite American humorist and writer, Fran Lebowitz, once wrote this line about her proclivity for physical comfort. She said, "Some people want to go back to the land. I want to go back to the hotel." And every time someone invites me to go camping or tells me about their adventures hiking or sleeping under the stars, I think of this and I giggle to myself. Now, don't get me wrong. I do love nature, but as Fran Lebowitz also said, it suffers from a severe lack of comfortable chairs. You see, I am, by nature, sedentary. A perfect day for me involves a lot of reading in bed and lolling around on the sofa. Now, don't get me wrong. I do like spending time outdoors. I love to take a good long walk or to sit on the beach and watch the waves. And I've spent many a late night out in the Israeli desert looking at stars. And I've been known to take photos of beautiful flower gardens that move me. But my happiest place is horizontal. You see, I have a very odd relationship with my physicality. Now, I love fashion and style and beauty and makeup, all those visual things. But the way I came out is more couch potato than bike tour in Italy. And I felt conflicted about this as I browsed my social media and I noticed people running marathons and all their gym shots that seem to give so many people so much pleasure. Why am I the way I am? Have I too much of a disconnect between my body and my mind? Could I actually benefit from forcing my hand in this area? Well, the Torah doesn't mention going to the gym, but it does say, "And you shall guard yourselves very well." And this is considered to be a command to watch out for one's health. The Rambam, who's the great philosopher Maimonides, explains that having a whole and healthy body is part and parcel in serving God, for it's impossible to have an understanding of the Creator if a person is ill. Therefore, one must avoid all things which damage the body and habituate oneself with things promoting health. He goes on to say that everyone who sits back secure in his self-confidence and doesn't exercise, even if he eats healthy foods and even if he takes good medical care of himself, all his days will be painful ones and he will be weakened. Similarly, Rabbi Kook, the first chief rabbi of pre-state Israel, writes that our physical demand is great. We need a healthy body. Through our intense preoccupation with spirituality, we forgot the holiness of the body. We neglected our physical strength. We forgot that we have holy flesh, no less than holy spirits. So, it's become clear to me that at my age and stage, I must take better care of my body. But where to begin? How do we fight against our natures, especially as we get older? Does Judaism teach us how to overcome our tendencies when they're no longer serving us? So the author and inspirational speaker, Alexander Den Hayer, once explained that when a flower doesn't bloom, you fix the environment in which it grows, not the flower. And the Torah also teaches us that changing the environment can make a difference. Menachem Feldman, who was in discussion about a portion in the Torah that deals with an ox that gores people, said this. He says, "A single negative habit is very difficult to change in isolation. The way to change a bad habit is to change the environment." an animal develops bad habits while living in a specific setting, since various elements of the environment trigger the behavior. The moment the animal is placed in a different environment, the triggers are no longer present, and the animal can develop new patterns of positive behavior. The same is true for each of us. Keeping resolutions to improve a specific behavior is very, very hard, and it takes a tremendous amount of willpower. The path that is more likely to succeed is not to change a specific behavior, but to change the overall environment. If one places oneself in a positive environment with positive influences, the old patterns are more likely to fall away, creating space for new positive patterns and habits. So, perhaps the first step in turning around this laziness gene I seem to have been born with and have nurtured is to change my environment, or at the very least, switch it up a bit. When I'm in Israel, for example, without a car, I walk everywhere. If it's less than an hour's walk, I would never dream of getting into a taxi. But after a week of this, I begin to feel strong and hearty, and even my thoughts are clearer and even more easily articulated. Working remotely has had its advantages for sure, but staying in my house in Toronto has only deepened my sedentary nature. Perhaps it's time to find a new working space outside of my house. Perhaps it's time for me to actively seek out new spaces and environments that don't feed my already lazy nature. You know, COVID's been over for almost 2 full years. Why am I still physically back there? This week, let's take a look at our environments and consider how they might perpetuate negative traits within us, traits that need to be addressed, especially those of us who work from home. Maybe instead of saying, I'll take an hour walk every single day, consider relocating yourself to a public library or even a coffee shop that you have to walk to get to, at least half an hour's walk. Maybe there'll even be a gym or a community center nearby that you can join, because nothing's going to change from the comfort of your home. Sometimes we need the courage to leave our comfort zones to become the most that we can be. So here's to getting off the couch for good.
Thanks for listening to Rise and Shine. Don't forget to rate, review, and subscribe to Momentum Podcasts on Apple, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcasts. Join Adrienne again next time for more timeless wisdom and uplifting meditations that fill your heart, feed your soul, and start your day on a positive note.
This podcast was made possible by the generous support of Bonnie Vozar of Chicago, Illinois. Spread the wisdom. Inspire Jewish individuals around the globe by supporting Momentum's podcasts. To sponsor, contact podcast@momentumunlimited.org. You're listening to a Momentum podcast. For unlimited inspiration, wisdom, and empowerment, visit momentumunlimited.org.